into the room. Wind blows underneath the soles of my brand new pair of shoes. I got the attention, I'm on a mission. No sweat in the way I step, I got a fresh new attitude. Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. Call me a king, you can buy me a crown. Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. I'm leveled up, and this is my world now. This is my world now. So anyone who try to write me off, tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. New look, got the ladies shook. New watch saying it's my time. These magazines wanna feature me, cause they know I'm on the rise. Got the attention, I'm on a mission. Cause ever since I flipped that switch, my power can't be denied. Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. Call me a king, you can buy me a crown. Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. I'm leveled up, and this is my world now. This is my world now. So anyone who try to write me off, tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. Pay attention, I'm on a mission. And then with the vision, got a passion, making it happen, ready for action. And this is my world now. This is my world now. So anyone who try to write me off, tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. So anyone who try to write me off, tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. 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 This is my world now.
Hey guys, first off, thank you everyone for joining me, and thanks for letting me know that the music sounded okay. Hopefully my mic is sounding okay too. There's always something when you go live, right? And right off the bat, before I piss anybody off who is really into politics and, whatever, the intent today is really to kind of have a little bit of fun with it. And with that said, I thought I heard myself clip. With that said, we're going to have a little bit of fun, but I'm not going to hold back any punches. I'm going to be very straightforward and fair. At least fair from my own perspective in the way that I think, in the way that I do things. I'm going to take these guys off. I think the sound is fine now. So let me just welcome everybody who decided to show up. So I really appreciate you guys. It's been a bit since we've done one of these, right? So Frosty Flake, nice to see you, man. So sounds like you're maybe out of the hospital now, or are you watching this on your phone? But regardless, it's always good to have you. Thanks for stopping by, dude. Robert M. That's a funny comment. Check this out. So Robert M says, Canon Republicans and Sony Democrats are not going to like me. That's hilarious. Pretty good thumbnail. Ajushi, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Darrington Jones, thanks for stopping by. There are subliminal messages across the entire thing, but maybe not what you guys are actually thinking or expecting. And I'll explain that here in just a second. Michael, thanks for stopping by. Okay, so, with politics, everything is divided, right? And that's so true in the camera world for whatever reason. Like, it doesn't matter that we're all professionals, we're all trying to get our job done, right? Whatever we're being paid for. There are some people that are like hardcore one camp or another, which is the reason why I created that thumbnail. And again, I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth. Max. So, thanks for stopping by. Max is our Overwatch guy. So basically, he's going to make sure that I don't lean too much in one direction or another. And he's done that with some of my Canon EOS R5 videos where he thought, or at some point felt, that I was a walking endorsement for Canon, excusing or finding reasons to excuse some of their shortcomings. But I think after this podcast or after this um, wind down Friday, Max, you're going to get a different side of me, and you're going to get a better perspective as to why it is that I do the things that I do and why I do them. So please stick around. Let's see, Mr. Organados, thanks for stopping by. Bryant, thanks for stopping by, and thanks for letting me know that the audio is cool. Super Clarky, can hear the music, sounds fine. Thanks, man. Max, let's start the debate. I'm telling you guys. Yeah, good. Let's see. Mike R. Sound is okay, but you better hurry up. The president is about to speak. That's funny. That's hilarious. Dennis, why would you do that to Sony? Yeah, it's. I'm gonna get to all of this here in just a second. Let's see, Robert. So you found two guys to make you look great. Love that. Yeah. So, of course, I'm having fun with it, right? I have my views, but by the end of what I have to say, I think you're going to see a lot of similarities in politics, but more importantly, a lot of ways that you could impact change, not just for yourself, but for whatever it is that you believe in. And that's really the message behind today's live stream. So we're going to get into that. It's a little low sounding wise. Well, let's see. If I turn myself up, let me know, James, if I'm clipping or if that's too low. By the way, what's up, Carlos? So James, if you guys don't follow James' channel, he live streams all the time, and he's got a lot of really great content. So you guys will want to check that out. Just really enjoy him. Shazam, the iPad producer, thanks for stopping by. Okay, so everybody's saying that there is some crackling sometimes. I don't know what I don't know if the crackling is my preamp or if it's just the way that I'm routing audio. So hopefully it's not like totally annoying. But if it is, I guess I'll do what I can to try to fix it. So, but thank you for these messages. And if it gets worse or if it gets intolerable, please be sure to let me know. So, Atif, love the setup so clean. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. We just actually finished building the studio. I had a sort of a like a earlier version of this studio. It was a lot more lit. And what's interesting about that is that I went from having like 10 lights to do the studio to now using 3 lights. And I like this setup a lot better. It's a little more moody, which is more with who I am as a person. Cool. So let's see. We got a lot of people in here today, and I really appreciate all of you. Chris B, thanks for stopping by. Let's see. I'm going to mess this name up. So thank you for stopping by. Vernon, thanks for stopping by. Okay, cool. So sound is better, sound is better, sound is great. Okay, cool. So it sounds like we're on track now with the sound. So hopefully it stays that way. So hopefully you guys are all having a really good day. Um, I'm going to start right off the bat and say that with the way that people want to die on the hill for either a Sony brand or a Canon brand or any other brand for that matter, um, I personally think that you're selling yourself short. If you are all in on any single brand, you will find a project where that brand or that camera that you chose to buy is not going to work out for you. And that's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's what allows us all to use our creativity to come up with ways around the challenges or the limitations. And this is something that I thought was evident in my Canon EOS R5 quick takes, the quick take videos, because there was no denying, and I haven't come across a legitimate heat issue when using the Canon EOS R5. I've used it on 3 commercial projects and 3 corporate or smaller corporate video projects, and one time my timer went down to 10 minutes left of being able to record in 8K RAW, and that was the only time I felt anxiety. So beyond me trying to make the camera overheat, it hasn't yet for me, and it hasn't given me the warning yet. So just, I'm going to explain more as to how I use it and why, what I do, and how it is that I shoot, in case anybody can take some of that away and then come up with, whether that would or wouldn't work for you. Because that's really what the bottom line is, right? Will something work for you or won't it work for you? And just like in politics, so I'm just going to get to the punchline here. Just like in politics, if someone, a brand, in this case, Canon versus Sony, since those seem to be the 2 most polarizing conversations that seem to happen both around my videos and then on Twitter, if any one of those companies is not doing what you need them to do, then use your voice or use your spending power to show them your support or your lack of support. So just like if you don't like either of the 2 candidates, or you like one candidate more than the other candidate, kind of like in my thumbnail. For those of you that missed it, here's my thumbnail. Let's see. There's the thumbnail. If you don't like one of those 2, there's only one way to effectively make change, and that is to vote for the other guy. Or in the Canon Sony space, put your money on the brand that you actually do support. Because now I'm going to go into a comment that I made on one of my quick takes, which is, it feels a little bit like a witch hunt. Just like in politics, I can't tell Donald Trump what to do. I can't tell Joe Biden what to do. I could scream all day. I could have petitions signed all day and try to get them to do what I want them to do, but I'm wasting my time, right? And that's really what happens when all we do is say, well, Canon, you should have X, or Canon, you shouldn't have released this camera without this other thing. Because you know what Canon did? Canon, in my opinion, as business people, and this is actually something that I say to all of my friends every time that a situation like this comes up. When someone is making more money than you should listen. You should pay attention, because they got there somehow that you haven't figured out how to do yet. And I know that sounds super harsh, but like I said, I'm not going to hold back any punches, right? But for me to tell a Canon engineer what kind of system to put inside the Canon EOS R5 body to determine how much time they will or won't give me to record 8K RAW, or 4K 120 in that high quality mode or whatever, that would be stupid. I didn't go to engineering school. I never designed a camera from the ground up. I don't understand all of the components and electronics that go into it or how the software functions. I don't understand what a thermal limitation might be for a single chip or component or any of all of the silicon that is actually inside of that camera. So for me to boast about it and try and pretend like if I reset the entire system by pulling out the battery while it's on, the whole computer inside of the camera is going to think, oh shit, power outage, no time to save any settings, so we're just going to do a hard reboot and think that that's a solution. That's asinine. That is stupid, right? Because you wouldn't on your laptop or on your desktop or on your Red camera, you wouldn't just yank out the power. What happens if you do that? You will end up with corrupt sectors in your media, right? In the operating system. Maybe not the first time, but at some point. There's a reason why all of us who work professionally, we have battery backups on our workstations because we can't afford what happens when a system crashes and it does a hard reboot. Think about that, right? But there are plenty of people who are very comfortable giving or adding fuel to that fire and saying, Canon screwed us. Well, Canon didn't put a gun to my head and say, you have to buy the Canon EOS R5, Carlos. They never did it. I chose to do it. And better yet, if it didn't work for me for the first 30 days, which is at this point it has, but had it not, I would have sent it back. And you know what? There is no love lost on my end at all. No problem. But what I needed, and this is going to get me into another point here, but I think that what a lot of people really hope or wanted is that they would end up with a $4,000 camera that could outperform the Canon C500 Mark II or the Canon C300 Mark III or any of the cinema line of cameras for that matter. And that all of a sudden becomes, in my opinion, very self-centered and selfish, right? Because when someone hires you to go work on a commercial project, on a corporate project, on a wedding project or whatever, do they dictate to you how much they want to pay you and then force you into accepting that contract? That never happens, right? Like, I can't go into my grocery store. I'm going to use this stupid analogy. I can't go into my own grocery store, want to buy a gallon of milk, and tell them I'm only willing on paying 50 cents. That will never fly. I can't do that at the petrol station, right? So businesses are in business to make money. It's a fact. I'm in business to make money. I'm not going to be, pretend that that's not the case. I'm not running a charity. Somebody wants to hire me, my day rate today is $4,700. DP, day rate, no gear. Carlos shows up on set. That is my day rate today. There is no compromising for me. That is the one thing that I will not ever, under any circumstances, negotiate with. I'll negotiate on the price of rental, on the gear, or whatever. If the budget is $20,000 and you need me there for more than, 3 days, I'm getting my day rate, and then maybe we're not shooting that on Red. Maybe we're going to shoot that on the C200, or maybe we're going to shoot that on the Canon EOS R, or whatever else it takes to make that project work. But my day rate, I am not going to negotiate, because that is the one thing, the knowledge, the experience, the know-how, the being able to sort out problems in near real time. That's the one thing you can't go into Best Buy and hand somebody a credit card and walk away with. And that's the reason why I will negotiate on my day rate. Everything else, camera, lenses, gear, audio, do I bring or not bring a DIT on set with me? Do I or don't I bring a sound guy with me? Okay, we can negotiate all that. But my own day rate or my DP's day rates for my crew, those are not flexible. And it's the same concept behind how it is that companies, whether it's a farm company that makes milk and sends it to the grocery store, or an oil company that sends their fuel to the gas stations, how it is that prices are set, we can't dictate those, right? So it's naive of a lot of individuals to think that we can demand a price point and a feature set in a hybrid camera from a company that really specializes in making lenses. And the fact that they make really kick-ass cameras is a byproduct of it. So when something doesn't work out, belly aching about it and just accusing other people of whatever, being paid or endorsing a brand that is failing or that has failed you in one way or another, it's super easy, right? If anybody lets you down, Blackmagic let me down, and what did I do? I sold all my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6Ks. Done. Did Blackmagic suffer because of it? Nope. Do people hate Blackmagic because I did that? Nope. Am I telling you that you should behave the way that I behave? Nope. Am I telling you that you should buy any gear that I buy? Absolutely not. We all have different needs, different scenarios, and shoot in very different ways. I don't know if you guys know this guy. His name is, shit. I just lost my train of thought because I read the messages that are coming in. So I'm going to go back to that. But I'm going to talk briefly about Griffin. If you guys haven't followed Griffin, he's on YouTube. He makes a lot of really good content. He's done things like comparing the C500 Mark II against the 1DX Mark III. And I believe he did a comparison also now with the Canon EOS R5 and why it is that he's keeping the camera, but it is not going to be a video camera for him. And I think that that video and what he said in that video, and after this whole thing is done, I'll be sure to link to what I'm talking about in the notes or in the comments so that you guys all can check it out. But what he basically said was, if he's taking a number of pictures and then he switches over to video, this was prior to the firmware update that was released yesterday. If he does that, he ends up potentially missing shots because he was not able to record the way that he wanted to record, which was at 120 frames per second. That affects the way that he uses his gear. It's a totally valid thing, right? But Canon never said, at least to my knowledge, and definitely not with any of the Canon representatives that I've ever spoken to, they never said the Canon EOS R5 is an A cam. And this, by the way, is going to lead me into why it is that it works for me and why it is that you guys have seen all the quick takes where I'm talking about the Canon EOS R5. And basically, I have one issue with it, which I will bring up in this video, but I'm going to make a dedicated video about it. I don't use the Canon EOS R5 as an A cam. Not once. I've used it as a specialty cam. I've used it as a cam or a camera that allows me to get, whether it be a tracking shot, which means a smaller dolly, or a Steadicam type of shot, which really means use a gimbal, or a jib shot that doesn't require me to hire 3 people to help me set up the jib so I can get that one establishing shot that I absolutely need for my project. I can get a much smaller travel size jib and get very similar results. That allows me, this is all tying back into the whole my day rate thing, but that allows me to work out lower equipment rental costs so that I could stay within a budget and maintain my rate integrity. In other words, I don't negotiate my day rate. That is how I'm using the Canon EOS R5. Now, I hear that the firmware update is making things a lot better, but in the end, if the Canon EOS R5 was not working for me, which one of the reasons why it works for me really, really well is because I have a lot of Canon lenses, a lot of them. I have every single prime. I have 2 full sets of the CNEs. I have 2 sets of the compact primes, the CNE compact primes. And I have 3 RF lenses. So going Sony for me is really and truly not an option unless I'm willing on changing everything else out. My Red, it has a Canon mount. My C500 Mark II, it has a Canon mount. My 2 EOS Rs, I have adapters for them that take up or that use Canon EF mount, which really means they behave like native lenses. So Sony's not for me, not because Sony is not a good camera. At this point, this is where, again, I'm not going to hold back any punches. So if I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, understand I'm not trying to be negative, is really what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying maybe let's look at the bigger picture. Regardless of who we are at this point, which camera system we choose, if we have trouble getting a good image, it's not the camera. It's no longer the camera. Buying a camera is not going to allow anyone to instantly get better. It just doesn't work that way. You need to put time in, both behind the camera, on set, and in post-production to get better. Once you do that, it doesn't matter if you're shooting with the Canon XC15 or if you're shooting with the Red Komodo. You're going to end up with an image that is what you wanted it to be. And that's really where we are in tech today when it comes to camera science. It doesn't matter what your budget is. If you understand the limitations of the gear that you're choosing to use or the gear that you put your money behind without anyone forcing you to, then you should be able to come up with the image that you want or need to tell your story in your project. And if at any point, any brand or any person or any individual gets in the way of you and your creativity, then use your voice, use your vote, use your cash to make a different selection. No one's going to blame you. We're all individuals. And we're all in it. And every voice, in my opinion, deserves to be heard. Every voice. And that's another reason for my quick takes with the Canon EOS R5 and why I didn't make any more for a bit, because I needed to get this message out, right? There are plenty of videos that have told me all about how horrible the dynamic range is of the Canon EOS R5. I think Gerald Undone, who's a person who I respect, he has a kick-ass YouTube channel, absolutely. He took a scientific measurement and showed that the Canon EOS R5 has roughly 12 stops of dynamic range. I think that's what it was. Maybe it was 11, I don't know. Whatever it is that he said. In my examples, I don't have any challenges with the dynamic range that is available from that camera. They're real working practical examples. I've posted a couple of pictures in some extreme dynamic range situations on my YouTube feed, the post, where you could put a picture and type something up. And then I showed that video where I'm like backlit in full shade from the tree in my front yard, and there are clouds and sky and a house with siding that blows out. If you put a phone, like if I was using my phone, it would have blown out the sky, everything. So I've shown what it is that it can do. Or, like for example, one other thing that I always thought was kind of interesting, and I totally get it, right? Like everybody wants C-Log 3. Well, C-Log 3 is already in the camera. That's the reason why why I shot that quick take episode, because C-Log 2, and C-Log 3 are already in the camera if you choose to shoot RAW. And one thing that almost no one has ever talked about is the RAW controls that you get with the Canon EOS R5 are way more advanced and sophisticated than the RAW controls that I get out of my Red in Resolve. That's kind of mind-blowing. They're giving you so many tools to end up with the exact image that you want or need on that project. So am I defending Canon? Nope. I'm just choosing to learn how to use it in a way that I could exploit everything that the camera has to offer. Not some of it, not just what's convenient, not me trying to shoehorn in a mirrorless camera into a commercial production environment. That's going to make me talk about the other point that I wanted to say, where, again, I'm not holding back any punches, okay? If you're going to, let's say you're working on a feature, or you're working on a commercial project, like a broadcast commercial project, as an example. Generally speaking, those require talent. They require dedicated sound people. They require dedicated DIT and monitoring solutions. There is a director on set, obviously, the cinematographer, first AD. I'm going to just keep going, right? Makeup, costume, sometimes a sound stage, and so many other things. Oh, and let's not forget that maybe you want to use some really nice, like hawk anamorphic lenses, as an example. Why on earth, if you're going through all of the trouble of coordinating all these different departments and these different people and getting all this high-end gear, would you then try and shoehorn in a Canon EOS R5, or any mirrorless for that matter, into that production? Renting a Red, an Arri, or a proper cinema camera, whether it be from Sony or Canon, is a much, much more intelligent thing to do. It's way more reasonable. So expecting any mirrorless to behave like an A-cam when you have so many other resources and money poured into a project, if that project fails, it's time to look inward and not blame the mirrorless camera that we chose to bring on set. This is, of course, all opinion-based off of me, my experience, and how it is that I shoot. I get it, there are people that want to work on their own passion projects and they're going to use the tools that they have, but that's the time when, as I say, we use our creativity to exploit all the goodness that we can get out of a camera and then stay away from or hide or not use, avoid all of the pitfalls, but expecting for me to just press play or press record and then have everything be done for me, well, then you might as well shoot in all auto, right? Shoot in automatic. And better yet, use your cell phone. Then that way, you have nothing to complain about other than the cell phone will get hot at some point. So those are, I know I'm like on a little bit of a soapbox here, but my whole point really is that I don't ever try to defend Canon. I simply try to make sure that I balance out all these voices that are much louder than mine, that are constantly thinking that they know better and know more than the entire thousands of engineering hours that have gone into the products that they release. I'm not, I just don't believe I'm smarter than they are. I'm not. I will use their tools because their tools allow me to keep the lights on. They allow me to keep my crew, which now is a crew of 17, employed. They allow me to keep my company profitable even during these weird times. That's where I'm coming from. A lot of you who have been here or have been a part of this channel for a while, you all know I'm a working guy, right? Like, yeah, I own the company, but I'm hauling lights, I'm hauling cameras, I'm doing whatever everybody else on my crew is doing because that's what it takes to be successful. And am I going to get a Sony a7s III? It's unlikely. But if I needed it, yeah, I'd pick one up. No question. I don't care. The only camera that I would like really genuinely question at this point if I would ever pick up would be a Nikon. I'm not sure that will ever happen in my lifetime, in the lifetime of my company. But other than that brand, I guess Olympus because they're gone, any other camera's game if it's the right tool for the job. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, but essentially, as a super quick recap, if you don't like Canon, don't give Canon your money. If you don't like Sony, don't give Sony your money. Don't let anybody on YouTube tell you what to buy. You should buy what's going to allow you to be successful. That includes me. That includes every single one of my friends. That includes any channel that you happen to stumble upon for whatever reason. No one can tell you how it is that you're going to be successful because we don't understand what you're actually working on. That's the moral of today's story. So I'm now going to start going through the comments and see sort of everything that I missed because it looks like there was quite a bit. Okay, so yeah, there was quite a bit. I don't, you know what, guys? How about this? There are too many for me to go back. So I'm going to start where Tyler's like, what's up, joining late. Thanks for stopping by, Tyler. Tyler's another great example, guys. Tyler had the opportunity to make a decision as to which camera he was going to go with as an A-cam, and I'll let Tyler tell you guys. I'm guessing we're going to see a video coming up about it. And I think he should share his entire thought process and why he went the direction that he did. Because I think that is the smart way to make a choice and not being emotional. So there you go. Let's see, Don B. I don't know what this is about, but okay. Majority of complaints come from those who do not work in the commercial realm. Expectations are too high. I think you're right. I think the majority of the complaints come from people who really don't know why they're complaining. They're jumping on bandwagons. Marco, yeah, most of us don't work in high-end commercial. So, and that's okay, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm telling you, This past week, I did 3 corporate jobs. They are 30-second ads that are going to run on social media. They're not high end, and I shot them with the Canon EOS R5, and I didn't have any issues. And all it takes is having a shot list and then sticking with it and making sure that you know, if you were supposed to be there for 2 hours, that you're in and out in 2 hours. And I think that some of that time management piece is part of filmmaking that is not sexy, right? It's not where everybody wants to spend their time. Everybody wants to talk about lenses and looks and camera and gear and more gear. But the reality is that filmmaking is it artistic? Yes, but it's also very technical. Very technical. Because a filmmaker is able to replicate an environment regardless of location. That's why there are things like light ratios and all that stuff, which we're not going to get into because that's a topic for a different live stream if there was any kind of interest there. Let's see. I had to furlough 30 cap up since April. It's been tough for a lot of people, man. Okay, Max. I nearly got FS7 24, never had it. Money then, it was sold. I got a C500, 1900. The C500, I mean, so this is something that you guys have heard me say before, and it's absolutely true, right? At this point, other than the original C100 or C100 Mark II, any camera that falls within a cinema line is more than enough for today's content delivery platforms, including, I mean, as long as it's got 10-bit, including TV. If you're doing higher end work, and maybe that should be a topic, but if you're delivering at higher than 1080, you should be charging more money. And we can visit on that in some other episode. Let's see. A director for MGM Resorts. Yep. Let's see. I like both cameras. I don't like all the whiners and complainers. That's the other thing, right? It's almost like if you just decide to get off your ass and go out there and create something, you might start having fun with the gear again. Because just surfing owner's manuals and reading through, 500 comments so that you can find the one where you're going to bitch about, I don't know. I'm not that type of person. And I mentioned that I'm like moody or whatever. I am, but I'm not a dark person. I love and enjoy positivity. In fact, that's one of our rules in my production company. We won't work with assholes. We just won't. So anyway, Super Clarky, a mechanic. Yeah, I think you had mentioned that before, but you do photography. I'm guessing not just for your business, but also as a hobby and maybe even to add income. I don't know. Maybe you could chime in. Let's see. Fred. If you want, I can share my test firmware, AK RAW, much better recovery time. I think that would be great, Fred, if you would share it. I think that would be awesome. As a product design engineer, I appreciate your stance that you may not know better than the engineers who made it. I hate to, we have, on my crew, there are 2 guys, all they do is gaffing, right? So lighting is second nature to them. I think I can work my way around a set and make sure that it's lit properly. They are better at it than I am. And I'm not embarrassed about it. This is the reason why they're part of my crew. Managing files or data wrangling of files, I can do it but I feel like I'm dying slowly inside as I go through that process. This is why I have a dedicated DIT guy who has no issues doing that. And I think that when we all find our lane, right, and we get in our lane, you end up happier and more successful. That's my 2 cents. Whoops. Let's see. Max, can we please step back and remember the days of FS7 with Odyssey for, yeah. Which, by the way, Convergent Designs decided they're not going to continue support or production on those systems. I don't remember if it's actual support or just a production. But that was interesting. They were the only ones, and I think to this day, the only company that produced a monitor with an OLED display. So, oh no, that's not true. Small HD did too at one point. I don't know. I don't remember. Sorry. Squirrel. And there goes my attention. Let's see. 4K HDMI still works well over 1 hour. Yeah, that's the other thing. Let's see. Marvel requires ARRI equipment for commercial use on their property. Okay, so here's something else that to go on top of what Tony just said, I had an opportunity to work with Audi, and they don't care that I have Canon gear, and they don't care that I have Red gear. They wanted ARRI. I had an opportunity to work with this other company called Horsch, and they built agriculture equipment. They don't care that I had, at the time, that I had Blackmagic as an option for a package, Red as an option for a package, Canon as an option for a package. They wanted ARRI. So there are those companies, and that's one of those gambles that you take when you buy into a system, because you're buying into the camera, the ecosystem of that camera, but then there is no guarantee that that will be the only, or that every single client of yours is going to be okay with your camera package. And that's just the way that production works. So it's so true. So I can totally understand what Tony's talking about here. Let's see, ordered 20 C300 Mark IIIs for our department. That's awesome. That's going to be one hell of a department. Been on Canon for a few years. Sweet. Let's see. Carlos, what we really need to cover is who is marketing target for Canon R5. Who is the marketing target for Canon EOS R5? So one itch that I've had for a while, so I guess I'm saying me, I always wanted a really high megapixel camera, stills camera. This is Wind Down Friday. I haven't even taken a sip. And the reason why I don't do stills work, mainly I don't. But for whatever reason, especially when I'm not working at the commercial level, but any level below that, high-end corporate or small business, they see that you bring a camera on set and they think you can help them with stills. I've had, at this point, on multiple occasions, been asked if I would take a still of something or a group or something. And I thought, why not? I'm here. I'm going to do this for the client. I'm not charging them for it because that's not what I was hired to do. And this will make, it'll be like added value for my client if I do it, which means when they need it again, they'll pay my day rate, which I'll get repeat business. So that was my thought process, right? So I do it. Here's what I didn't understand. I didn't understand that they were going to take my still and then send it over to their billboard company or their marketing agency and then have it plastered on a big gigantic billboard in a city or town where I work. Or anywhere really, because if it's where I work, or where I have worked, then chances are 90 or more percent of those business owners know me, which also then means they'll know who took that image. And that bothered me to no end. So I was lusting after a high megapixel camera. I needed something so that if I was placed in that position again, that I could deliver the best possible, highest quality stills image that I could produce within the restraints of that project. So I was looking at Fujifilm. And then they announced the Canon EOS R5. And then I thought, okay, 45 megapixels, it's twice the resolution that I was shooting at before, or close to twice the resolution. It also does video. It can shoot in 8K, which then allows me to match my red. Or I shoot in 8K and then I deliver in 4K on a C500 project. Canon started looking really, really attractive. I looked at Hasselblad. That didn't work out for me. It's a beautiful camera, but it would be a camera that would likely sit on a shelf a lot. And that's how I ended up with Canon EOS R5. So why? Because I genuinely needed a hybrid camera. The bonus for me is that I could use it as a specialty camera on the video side. That's the reason why I got the Canon EOS R5. And I don't think I'm unique. I feel like there are lots and lots of people either that started in photography and are moving into video, where the R5 is going to fit really well. I'll explain a little bit about that here in just a second. Or opposite, someone like me who works 99% of the time in video or motion and occasionally needs high quality stills. The photography people, the people that care about their images and they've been working on the still side forever and now are being asked to deliver motion, why the R5 is ideal for them is because they don't need 8K RAW. They don't need all of the gigantic data hungry rates, which now I'm going to talk about the one thing I hate about the Canon EOS R5, which is not really the camera itself, but it's rather the H.265 codec. You can't pay me to use it. I'm going to make an entire episode about that. But that is horrible. But if someone was working on the still side, they don't understand the system requirements, the storage requirements, the redundancy requirements needed to manage 4K video, 5K video, 8K video. So a camera like the Canon EOS R5, in my opinion, absolutely fulfills what they need for their stills side of the work, and it allows them to dip their toe into a video workflow. And I think, Max, these are the people that are being targeted. People like me and people who are moving in or moving from just stills work to a hybrid workflow. Do I think that the R5 is ideal for weddings? I think you guys should ask James Jackson Films, because he's in the chat and he's already shot a wedding with it. So he's got like real world experience. I would never be able to give you advice on weddings because I don't do weddings. So there you go. Okay, so back to the comments. So Tony says he'd buy the R5 for his personal use. Seems pretty awesome. And it is. If you have that kind of income, right, to be able to afford a camera like that and have it just be for your own personal use, I think you're going to be incredibly happy with it. Like, yeah, no qualms about that. Okay, fully rigged out C200 on a wedding, but still has to take a picture. Yeah, that shit happens. Let's see. Tyler, Ah, see, so it's happened to Tyler too. Tyler also shoots weddings. So Frosty Flake, he has the GFX 100 for personal use, which makes me think about the R5. So, and Frosty, you live in a place in the United States that is just beautiful. So I don't know. I feel like I'd want the 100 megapixels because of where you live. But where I live, 45 megapixels is more than enough. Does anyone use film to film on feature films anymore in the U.S. that you know of? Other than Quentin Tarantino, I don't know. I don't know. And I haven't been on a studio set where traditional film was used. Wow, in I think since like 2002 maybe. So it's been a while. Okay, Tony Carlos, you are the only YouTube personality I can relate to to who always uses realistic expectations. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. That's kind of what I'm hoping to do. And that's one of those things where when I finally came up with sort of like the YouTube channel positioning, it's really about building a community of filmmakers and content creators at different levels where we can all share content, information, and experience so that we can all level up. That it has to be what drives this channel because I'm not a witch hunt person and I don't like negativity. So there you go. Let's see. Okay, cool. So James is answering. Thanks for doing that. Tony, I don't understand why people treat the A7S III and R5 as a system of war. It's like PlayStation versus Xbox. It really is just weird. It's almost like it's a bit immature, but ultimately there are people. I'm not one of them, at least not yet, and hopefully never. That's not true. Like I would love to be a full time YouTuber. I would love for everybody to use my affiliate links and then have that be my primary source of income. I would love it. That's not realistic because because of the way that I live. It likely will never happen, right? And also, I really do love working in the industry, but a lot of the channels that start off or spark up these wars, they rely on the views. They rely on people clicking on their affiliate links. They need it because it's part of their livelihood. And we all just have to remember that when we're watching them because some of these people have really awesome personalities and I really do enjoy their content. But just because a professional YouTuber said something, it doesn't have to mean it can't work for you. It just has, like you're the only one that can make that evaluation. My 2 cents. A hybrid cam will always be in my kit. Yeah, I feel like at this point, if any of us work in anything, even if it's just to self promote, you need a hybrid camera. Uh, James, I think we had done that already. Sorry. With 5.5K raw, lower bitrate coming to the 1DX Mark III and 1DX3 will become a completely raw camera for me. That's another thing. Like the R5 for me, it is. This is going to go against, some other YouTube channel video themes and titles. But for me, the Canon EOS R5 is only an 8K raw camera for video. On the still side, it's a stills camera, and I love shooting raw. Even though we did go through a moment there where we had to convert all the raw images into DNG files so we can actually see them, which that annoyed me, but another episode of Quick Takes. I think I'm like spilling the beans on everything that's coming up on Quick Takes, which is stupid. Films that surprising given the cost. Yep, yep. Film is very expensive. Uh, Advertising video specs, they're really hard pre-launch. So one thing that I think Canon did a good job of was making sure that before launch, which is where a lot of these videos came from, right? Like Peter McKennan's video was before launch. Matty Hapoya's video was before launch. Armando's video was before launch. Or a lot of their content was before launch. What they allowed, or what that allowed to happen, is that before the camera launched, they identified what people's pain points were going to be. And then those of us that received the camera on the first batch, they got some more feedback from us, and we end up with a firmware update a month or so after it launches. That's not bad. That's like really smart. That's kind of what I'm saying about how I don't think I'm smarter than Canon. Like they have a system in place that seems to make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. So I think that that's what they did really, really, really great. Max. Yeah, so Max, what is your day rate? What maybe you should share with us. Okay. Wow. I am not going to be able to keep up with these messages. So I'm going to apologize to every single one of you that I'm going to skip. Sorry in advance. Is there a way to turn off IBIS in the R5? The answer is yes. And A7S III for operation on a drone. I have no idea on the Sony A7S III. And here's another thing. I'm just going to say this because I said I wasn't going to hold back any punches, but everybody who is ready to jump ship and go with the Sony A7S III, the camera doesn't exist yet. It exists as a pre-production model to dedicated and specific reviewers. No one else has it. I can't go into the store and buy it. I can't buy it from Sony. And I think that that's worth saying something, because while the camera is out in the wild, it is not available to all of us mortals. So for anyone, in my opinion, to take advice on what for me equals a beta cam, it would be a mistake. So I'm just going to leave that there because I know that I've already upset at least one person when I've said that before. So, yeah, I think it's kind of silly. It is what it is. Okay, so I didn't know that this update to Final Cut Pro 10 actually did make H.265 easier. I will have to check that out tomorrow. So Frosty, you should make a video. Just I'm being selfish now, and I'm asking Frosty to do something for all of us from a very selfish perspective. You should make a video comparing the stills capabilities of those two cameras, and then what we're missing on the R5 by not going with the Fujifilm camera, because 100 megapixels is a lot. I don't care if that's like a 3-hour long video. I would watch that, maybe even in slow motion, because that's something that is still very interesting to me. The R5 did scratch the high megapixel count for me, but I'm not going to lie and tell you that I completely lost interest in the camera that I was absolutely going to buy. So there you go. R5 usage on drones will be amazing. You know, the R5, punching into the R5 on a 4K timeline beyond 200% is kind of incredible. And maybe I'll do an episode on that. I just really, really enjoy that. Super Clarky, don't struggle with the H.265, but maybe not doing long enough edits to cause a problem. My problem is with H.265, and this is before Frosty's comment here. I could hit play and the audio is like playing on my Mac Pro, no problem. On my iMac Pro, no problem. But the motion isn't happening, and it just drives me nuts because that disconnect with my eyes and my brain just it it kills me. I can't handle it. Steelworks Media, thanks for showing up, man. I'm looking to get the R5 for landscape photography and a specialty camera to work with my C200. I think you're going to be really happy with that. Really happy. Let's see. R5 fills the bill for a lot of fast action wildlife and birds. So I'm not a wildlife photographer, but every person that I've talked to who has the R5 and has used it for bird photography, they rave about it. They talk about how the animal eye detects the eye before the person actually focuses on the bird through the viewfinder, which I think that's kind of amazing. So that's really, really fun. Small Brown Fox, thanks for stopping by, man. Komodo footage looking good, don't you think? um, uh, can we talk about Komodo in a different video? I'm going to tell you that there are select few people, in my opinion, that have shown Komodo footage that is good. And then there are a lot of people that have shown Komodo footage that makes me want to turn around in the opposite direction and never think about Komodo ever, ever, ever again. So I think that the only way for me to genuinely judge that camera is for me to be the guy exposing, me to be the guy controlling something as simple as the focus, and me being the guy that controls the lighting, so that I could say Komodo is awesome or Komodo is okay or Komodo needs work. And I'm not going to drop any names, but even one of the really popular videos that was released here late this week, as in within the last couple of days, a lot of those Komodo shots are just flat out not in focus. And the color grade that they applied, like it broke the codec. You could see blockiness of patches and gradients. And if that's acceptable to them, it wouldn't be to someone like me. And that's just, I guess that just sucks. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to get my hands on a Komodo. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So no, I don't transcode H.265. I just shoot raw. That's what I've opted to do. It's all raw now at this point. YouTube is fun, but being on set is what gives me energy. Absolutely. Same here, Tyler. Same here. I want maximum IQ just for short fun videos in 8K RAW. You can definitely do that. But I own a lot of EF lenses. Will cinematic or RF lenses add viewable video? Yes. 8K RAW is going to make all your lenses sharper, and if you have bad lenses or inexpensive lenses, and I know that I've offended other people when I've said the brand Rokinon before, but if you put a Rokinon lens on the Canon EOS R5, every flaw in that lens, you are going to see it. So I'll leave it at that. Let's see. To me, the R5 rules in good light, and the A7S 3 rules in low light. Both cameras are beautiful. So Robert, you will want to check out the low light video that I'm going to release on the R5 next week. And I'll just leave it at that. If you can afford both mics, Max, you should buy both. Why not? You know, that's the other thing, right? It's like no one should really tell us what to buy. We should buy what we want or can afford, The only advice I would give when it comes to buying is simple. Do not put it on a credit card. Buy it if you could afford it. If you can't, save up for it. Don't put it on a credit card. That's my, you know, I'm on the back end of my 40s. I turned 48 this year. So that's my advice as an older person. Okay, Archie, I'm gonna try to get through more comments. So sorry, I'm again skipping. Tyler, thanks for stopping by. I know you got to bounce, so really appreciate it. Let's see. Elias, the only R5 videos where I smile with a big woot. This is quality by viewing them on a 65-inch 4K OLED TV. Yep, 4K raw samples. I totally agree. In fact, one of my friends, a very good friend of mine, we're practically brothers. Um, he's got an 85-inch TV, and we started talking about OLED, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna make me go buy an OLED TV now?" And it's not that I'm making anybody buy anything, but like once you've seen what modern cameras can resolve on an OLED, you don't really want to go LCD again. It's just it's kind of magical. It's really really cool. Uh, so James Jackson is laughing at Komodo. Get ready, there's more of that coming with newcomers jumping into the system. So I actually think that that is a legitimate problem and maybe even a potential like PR or marketing problem for Red. The camera is so affordable that so many other people are jumping into it without understanding that if you want the best out of Komodo or any Red camera for that matter, you need to understand black balance. And you need to understand black balance for the temperature of where you're going to be shooting, your frame rate of whatever it is that you're going to be shooting, and the ISO at whatever it is that you're going to be shooting. And if you choose not to do that, you're going to end up with some less than desirable results. Unless you're monitoring on, something that can't resolve. So like maybe a 1080p display or something. And then you're going to be like, well, this looks the same as everything else. My 2 cents, again. Uh, let's see. R5 awesomeness array. Yep. Autofocus on the R5 is like I would have never thought that it was going to get a lot better than what I've seen out of some of the other cameras, including the C500 Mark II. But the autofocus on the R5, in my opinion, is better than the C500 Mark II. It really is really, really cool. Okay, so Tyler, I thought you were leaving, dude. Komodo's global shutter is the selling point. It is. Absolutely is. But for those of us who have now not shot using global shutter for such a long time, but weddings, flash, or strobes of any kind, I suppose. Small brown fox. He saw the one that I mean. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to. I don't want to bash anyone, but yeah, it was bad. Love the R5 internal raw. Absolutely, internal raw on the R5 is on par. This might upset some people, but it can go toe to toe with Red, and it can go toe to toe with the C500 Mark II. Raw on the R5 is terrific. It's terrific. Okay, so there are some other conversations going on. I'm hoping the audio conversation that's going on is not about me. Let's see. You look like you're in your 30s. Yeah, well, thank you, I suppose. Let's see. You can't be an older person because I'm older than you. That makes me ancient and that's sad. You know, it's what's really interesting is that like after I don't feel like I'm in my 40s, right? And after some time, I don't know how much age like I mean unless you're like, 80 in a nursing home or something or 90 in a nursing home, I don't know how much that really truly matters. It's almost like I learned from younger guys and sometimes younger guys learn from me too. And we all together end up making something even better than it was. And that's the fun part I think about this industry. That's what I really enjoy the most. It's like until I figured out that I will never be great by myself because I tried it by myself from 2000 to like 2003. I tried it by myself. That was a mistake. Maybe I'll talk about that in a different episode. But that whole collaboration and being able to feed off of other people, it takes a project that maybe could have ended up here and it like elevates it. And that is fulfilling. That just feels really, really good. Black balance tip on these kids. Yep. Okay. Hey brothers, Dre, new channel name. Oh, cool. Silent Bites. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. Komodo does black shade much faster than the rest of them. I hope so. It's um, with new processors and stuff. I haven't. Do you have Frosty? Do you have a Komodo? Um, I just I can't get my hands on one. I did. Um, I'm gonna say this, but everybody just take this with a grain of salt. So I didn't pre-order the Komodo, right? So I didn't jump in line for a Stormtrooper or a specialty color one, but one of my friends did. And since then, this friend of mine decided he was going to go with the Blackmagic 12K camera. He left his name in line, and I offered to take his place. If he gets called, then I will end up with a Komodo, and and hopefully it's as awesome as I want it to be, and then it will become part of my kit. And if it isn't, I'm gonna sell it, and I'm gonna let all of you know why I would do that. So we'll see sort of how that works out. Um, my thoughts on Panasonic. I think that if you work in the broadcast space, Panasonic is a very good option. Their ecosystem for their types of cameras, you know, they've been around for a really, really long time. So I think that they're good for that. If you're trying to do more cinematic and commercial work, I don't know that Panasonic should be your first choice simply because, well, I'm going to take a step back. Maybe look at the studios around you and the agencies around you and then see what the other crews are using. And if they're using Panasonic cameras, then yes, that's the right system to go into it so that you can stay employed. But if they're not, then maybe consider a different brand. That's probably the best advice that I could give you. I don't own any Panasonic cameras. If I was going to buy into the Panasonic system, for me, I would start with the S1H for what that's worth. Let's see. Yeah, there is static sometimes in your microphone. It's got to be my preamp. So sorry. Sorry. Will you make some R5 raw samples? I actually have some Max. I just didn't upload them and didn't talk about them because of the conversation you and I had on my post. But maybe we'll make them available. David, first time viewer, thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Do you think Canon would implement a cropped 6K RAW in the R5? I don't know that they would do 6K RAW. but they might do 5K. I don't. I think they have to. They have to try and keep a bigger gap between their cinema line. I think, but I could be totally wrong. I guess it's possible. Why not, right? Okay, so Frosty has used the Komodo once briefly. Got it. Canon's new RF cinema cameras sound interesting. New smaller form factor could be a great B and C cam. I totally agree. The when I early in this live stream, I mentioned that Canon is a lens company that happens to make kick-ass cameras. And to that point, I believe this week I've gotten 2 emails from Canon, marketing emails, inviting me to explore my creativity with new RF lenses. So they are no dummies, right? Like they know I bought a Canon EOS R5. They know all of the products that I have registered with them. So they know that I don't have, this built up collection of RF lenses like I do with my EF lenses. So they're inviting me to buy more from them. It's just, they're doing what any other business would do. They're making sure that they get repeat business. Okay, Frosty Flake planning on using Komodo in a VR rig. Well, that would be really awesome because of the size, right? If autofocus is reasonable, so I'm waiting. So it sounds like to me that with Komodo and the autofocus, basically you set the box where you want the autofocus to happen, and as long as the object is moving, you know, towards or away from the camera within that box, it will keep it in focus. But if the object goes out of the box, autofocus will not follow. So I don't know if this is something that will be fixed in beta or not, or in the actual release of the camera or not, but it would be interesting to see sort of how it develops. I also think that, I don't want to talk about Komodo too much because every time I do, I get people get upset. People get upset with my opinion regarding Komodo. But it's got an RF lens mount that cannot talk to RF lenses. Did you all let that sink in for a second? RF lens native mount on a camera that cannot communicate with RF lenses. Hopefully that changes by the time that they actually release it. But again, for so many people that are like ready to die on the hill about how that is the best way to go, I just like to make informed and smarter decisions with my money. And with that said, if my friend gets called and the Komodo is ready for him, I'm going to jump in line and take it. Will I keep it is the question. Let's see. Do I like Sumire lenses? Yeah. They remind me of Cook. They're beautiful. They are beautiful. I talked with the Red Engineer yesterday. So maybe, Frosty, you could share some more on how that conversation went and what that actually meant. Let's see. What is the video output on the HDMI when the R5 is on RAW photo mode with fast shutter? I need to actually try that. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know what that answer would be. Frame blending. Wouldn't that give you artifacts though? But maybe. I don't know. Well, guys, I have no idea how long we've been on this live stream. Oh, shoot. We've been over an hour. That got long-winded really, really fast. You guys are all awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. The takeaway of the video again, simple. No one should tell you what to buy. And if somebody really is doing you wrong, don't give them your money. Just like in politics. If you don't like one guy or the other, don't vote for them. Or don't stay at home and not vote at all and then let everybody else make a decision for you. Exercise your right to vote. Or in the camera world, exercise how it is that you leverage your buying power so that you can then affect change based on how and what you choose to purchase. I think that that's important. Let's see. Comment quick. Can you do a video on how you went from just starting out to charging almost 5K a day? I'm in college looking to learn. Yeah, it's been a long trip, right? You know, I mentioned I started in 2000. Here we are, 2020. So it's been a long trip. Nothing happened overnight, but absolutely, I think that would be. That's probably a really good topic for live stream since it could get kind of long-winded, and I can go in so many directions with, just the way that things have worked out. But yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. What are some of the key differences to know about cinema RAW formats and their differences, say, for example, Red Arri, Canon Blackmagic RAW, and Sony? Which ones stand out to you the most? Okay, so this is actually a really fun question because in other people here who have shot with Red might be, other people who have shot with RAW formats should be able to chime in. But the biggest difference when choosing a RAW format is understanding your actual post-production workflow. See, if I'm working on a commercial set and I'm being paid to shoot RAW, I'm not the guy doing the edit. I'm turning over RAW files. If I'm choosing to shoot RAW on, say, a corporate set, a higher end corporate set, and I'm actually doing it, then that's when my own workflow matters the most. Because not all RAW formats are mature. What I mean by that is, Red as an example. Red, they have their own, what is that called? Red Cine X, right? So you can decode your RAW and then export into ProRes 4x4 or ProRes 422 or whatever you need from Red Cine X. Red Code RAW can also be used across Final Cut Pro 10, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and Resolve. So that's a really mature RAW. But you do have to decode it and process it. With Arri Log C, you put it into an NLE and you actually look at a finished Rec 709 grade on it already because the NLE thinks this is what you want to convert it to. You didn't have to go in and make any adjustments. So Arri is awesome because of that. No matter what you throw into the NLE, it always looks finished because of how the NLEs are processing, log C. Whereas with Canon, which Canon RAW really is maybe the least mature at this point, that's kind of iffy because it's incredibly mature if you use Resolve in your post-production workflow. Obviously, if you use Canon's own software, which I'm not a fan of, you can certainly process it that way too. But there are other limitations, like if you choose to use it with Final Cut, you can't edit your RAW settings. So those are the main differences. For me, if I'm capturing 8K RAW on my Red at 5:1 compression, and I bring it into Resolve, and I do my color transform and essentially a final grade, and I export it or I render it from Resolve into Apple ProRes 422 HQ. On most of my computers, it will render at about, well, on my Mac Pro, it will definitely render at between 14 and 18 frames per second. On my iMac Pro, it will render between, if I have noise reduction, at 2 frames per second. If I don't, it will render at 8 frames per second. On my Mac Pro, iMac Pro rather, I'm sorry, my Mac Pro, I won't edit 8K. I get a very similar performance from 8K RAW out of the EOS R5, and I get, this is kind of the mind-blowing piece, I get very similar performance on the RAW coming out of the C500 Mark II. So something in the way that Canon RAW works seems to be on par with how Red Code RAW is processed. Blackmagic, on the other hand, when I had my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6Ks, I could render at 2 times whatever my frame rate was. So if I shot it at 24, I could render out at 48 frames per second. That matters. It matters a lot. If it was 60 frames per second footage, no, that's not true. It doesn't do 60, it does 50. Then it would still only do about 48 frames. But nothing runs as smooth as Blackmagic RAW on Resolve across any other NLE if you're capturing in RAW. Like nothing. So that's maybe the highlights and you know what it is that you might want to consider and think about. So I am not a licensed dealer for any cameras. I am a working DP. I'm a working DP. That's what I do. A working commercial DP, I guess, if we really want to get specific about it. Red Code RAW is my favorite. James, I'm going to say I have the most experience with Red Code RAW. So I'm very comfortable diving headfirst into it. I'm getting there with Canon. Let's see. Sweet set. Awesome. Aiden. Thanks, man. Let's see. The main difference is how much metadata control and which NLE can support it. Yeah. The NLE, at this point, is probably the biggest, I don't know, factor in post-production. For me, all of my color work is done in Resolve. My edits, depending on the project, are either Final Cut Pro 10 or Premiere. And lately it's been 80% Premiere, 20% Final Cut. Because we do a lot of episodic types of projects. Louis, thanks. Thank you. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. So guys, I think at this point, we should call it a night. Yeah, we've been on for a really long time. And now we've been on for a while. Hour and 34 minutes. I just want to, again, appreciate or let all of you know how much I appreciate you. Do let me know if you guys enjoy this type of content. And we're going to try to get back on track. The construction on all of the sets are going to finally be done in 2 more weeks. But at least now we have half of the studio that is usable. That was one of the other reasons why we had that delay in these wind down sessions. So now you guys know. So cool. Again, thank you all for stopping by. You guys are awesome. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe and take care.
sugar and gold. Once I got a piece of this ecstasy and heavenly bliss, I'm back for more. Take me to a higher place, show me all your magic ways. One more time, I can't get enough of this. Never felt a feeling like this. Now you're mine. Give me some more. Give me some more of what you got. Give me some more of that. La 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 la. Give me some more of that. Yeah 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 yeah. Give me some more. Give me some more of what you got. Give me some more. Give me some more. You give me such a thrill and ride.